What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another Tottenham update for you guys, and not good news, unfortunately. We're going to start off with the bad news coming out of Tottenham today regarding Ivan Perisic, and there's official confirmation, and Tottenham say that we can confirm that Ivan Perisic has suffered a complex anterior cruciate ligament injury in his right knee. The experienced Croatia international sustained the injury in a non-contact training and will undergo surgery, and they're wishing him the best in his recovery. And Fabrizio Romano also talking about the news, and he says Ivan Perisic has torn his ACL and he'll miss the next 5 to 6 months, as Tottenham confirmed. Perisic is a fantastic professional who will now work hard to be back to help Spurs in March, April, and then Euro 2024 with Croatia, and he has a feeling that he can do it. Wishing him a speedy recovery. I mean, to be honest, I think this is probably the end of his Spurs career with an ACL at his age. I don't think we're going to see him again this season.
I agree. I think it's a massive blow, especially considering he'd been providing such great cameo appearances off the bench in the first few games of the season. And he was providing like something really different to Spurs. I think it's a massive shame that his season's going to be cut short. And I think in a weird way, it was his 50th appearance, that appearance against Sheffield United on the weekend. But I do think it's going to be his last, because I don't think he's going to play again this season. Yeah, even if he does play, it's going to be maybe the last game of the season. Like, I really can't see a situation where he's back match fit for any significant part of the season. And he's not, and obviously it's the end of his contract, so I don't expect him to get a new contract at Tottenham. Obviously, there were talks about him being involved in the deal for the centre back. What's his name? Vukovic. So whether that impacts that, I don't know. That's something I guess maybe a little concern.
I thought that deal's done though, isn't it?
The club never announced it, did they? It was always like Romano. It came from them, didn't it? So I don't know. I don't know the situation. I'm assuming that it's not an issue, but maybe if Perisic was involved in that deal, I don't know whether that changes things. But it's a massive blow. I think he's a really good player, and I'm just gutted for him. It's to have that kind of injury so late in your career must be difficult to deal with, especially someone who's had very few injuries, to be honest, especially for Tottenham. And in the last few years, he's been all pretty much available for the majority of the time. So what a shame. Massive shame that's happened.
Massive blow. Really big blow for Ivan Perisic. And for us as well, because he's come on, he's done well. I thought he did really well, specifically in the last game against Sheffield United, coming on to really help us break down that low block. I think it's going to be a blow for Richarlison as well, who obviously likes to get those balls in the box and head them on, and he's our strongest guy in the air. How's it going to affect him? But it could open the door for someone like Bryan Gil, though. Yeah,
exactly. So maybe Gil can get more of a look in. Obviously, Solomon's going to get more time now on the left-hand side, but it also might have to make us rethink, the Son situation, if he's going to be our number 9 or if he's going to spend more time now on the left, because we all of a sudden we have Solomon, and if Son's a number 9, then we only have Solomon on the left. So maybe Son's going to have to. Yeah, Gil can play on the left as well. So yeah, I guess that's the natural kind of position, is that he gets more game time now.
What about Kulusevski on the left? I know he hasn't done it. We haven't seen him on the left in a Spurs shirt, but with him, with the predominantly which foot he uses, maybe on the left might suit us more.
I don't see him as a left winger. Like, I don't see him as someone who's going to be effective there, because I think to go on the outside you need real pace, and I think that's how you effectively get to the byline on the outside. I'd actually like to see Brennan Johnson on the left. I think he could maybe do a job there more than Kulusevski. But I think there might be situations where we're facing a deep block and we might need good delivery from the outside, and maybe in those situations Kulusevski can do a job. But I've never seen him play on the left before, so it's hard to say.
Let's move on. Let's talk about this quote going around from Daniel Levy from the fans forum yesterday, and he has confirmed at that fan forum that Tottenham have a buyback clause for Harry Kane, and that has been agreed in the deal with Bayern Munich. We don't know any sort of figures or anything like that surrounding the buyback clause, but it is interesting.
Definitely, and I think that maybe that's one to revisit in the future. Obviously, we have no idea when it gets activated, how much it is. I think it was quite interesting, the whole fans forum thing. Obviously, I've seen the clip of him confirming the buyback clause for Kane. He was kind of asked two questions, and he kind of avoided the Kane one, and then was kind of followed up by the presenter saying, "What about the buyback clause?" He said, "Of course." He just said, "Of course." So he didn't say, "Yes, we have one," or he just said, "Yeah, yes, of course." It was a very short answer. So maybe he didn't want to go into too much detail, but I think it was fairly interesting. So I think Levy was probably the most interesting part of the forum because he was quite open about previous managers, where they'd maybe gone wrong. What was interesting is what he said about appointing managers like Conte and Mourinho. First of all, he was saying how he felt like they're great managers, and he was blinded by their trophy hauls, and he was blinded by the fact he said he was under pressure from players and a large section of the fan base to get a manager just to get a trophy through the door because it'd been so long since we won a trophy. Now, having heard that, like, do you think they're like not the First of all, what players do you think it is? Do you think it's players like Kane who are putting pressure on him to appoint these kind of managers? And as well, is it right that he points out that a large section of the fan base have been putting pressure on the club to get a manager to win a trophy?
I kind of think it's a bit of a moot point, like, because he sacked one of those managers 4 days before a cup final. So he's going on saying he's under pressure by all these people saying to bring in a manager to win a trophy, and then we actually get to a cup final with one of them, and then he sacks him. So I mean, I think it's all a bit irrelevant, to be honest. But I think it's Spurs fans have been putting pressure on the board in terms of who to appoint and who not to appoint. I think the players probably have been as well. And I think at the time, obviously now, looking back at it, it was the wrong thing to do to go for these kind of managers, win now managers. But if you're going to, it's not just about going and getting the managers. It's about everything that surrounds bringing in the managers as well and giving them exactly what they need to succeed in the job. And that just wasn't the case.
So you would say that there wasn't necessarily the approach that was wrong. It was how we approached the approach.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly right.
Yeah. And I kind of agree with that. If you're going to go in a certain direction, you fully go into it and everyone buys into it. And I feel like Spurs kind of half-assed the approach rather than go on. Yeah, I mean, we can go for a short term. First of all, I do agree with Levy that these managers aren't necessarily the right fit for our club in terms of the way they play football and these kind of things.
They could have been, is my point.
But what I would say is I think the fan base would have maybe put that to a side, and maybe even they still could have been just short term managers, right? And that could have worked if they just would have brought a bit of silverware, but they were only going to do that if you just fully go in that direction. And I think that we kind of didn't fully buy into the managers ourselves or the club, and we didn't want to fully commit every resource to give them everything they can to make their strategies work. And so it led to a situation where they didn't have the tools they needed to make their football work, and the club didn't want to invest more into them in the long term because they never felt they were the good long-term fits. So the strategy was completely muddled.
Of course it was. And you can't bring in a Jose Mourinho and not build that defense first. He got Joe Rodon, for God's sake. You can't bring in an Antonio Conte to see the great work that he did to get us in the top four. And then everyone saw the investment where we needed to invest, and we get Clement Longley on loan for the rest of the season. You can't bring in these kind of managers and then not invest heavily in that defense where we were clearly lacking year in, year out for so many years. So I think at the time, it's not like the manager and the style of football that was so much the problem. It was, I think, fine, what we're seeing now is proper Spurs DNA, but clubs can change their philosophies over time if they 100% back the project and see it through. We kind of said, all right, cool, we're changing our philosophy, we're going for a win now project, but still carried on bringing in those kind of players for the previous ownership and not ownership but management.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Levy, as much as I appreciate him taking responsibility for making mistakes potentially with the managers chosen, I do think in hindsight, as much as they could have worked, even if we did back them and did win a trophy, yes, that could have worked. But I think the club that we are, Like, I don't think they were the right fit for this club, and I think he acknowledged that, and I think that's right. But I don't think he acknowledged enough for me his part in the failings of those managers. On top of the fact that it wasn't just the fact that they weren't the right fit, it was how they were dealt with the hierarchy as well, which led to them failing. And I think they've got to take some responsibility for that. And they can't just say they were the wrong manager and they just wash their hands of all responsibility and I accept.
I think it's a lazy approach to just say it like that, because there are so many different factors that go into it, as apart from just the manager's not the right fit for Tottenham and that's it. And yes, the manager is not the right fit for Tottenham, but the managers are not the right fit for Tottenham is because of the way the ownership acts around them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it comes down to.
So I think they have to accept more responsibility. But they did apologise. He had kind of apologised, admit he was wrong. And yes, hopefully we're going in a better direction now with Ange. And it's he was saying how the atmosphere in the stadium is what we want to see, and the football that he said, Levy, we have our Tottenham back. And I don't know whether he's maybe playing up to the crowd because he saw that's what the chants have been, isn't it? In the stadium, we've got a Tottenham back. So he's probably just playing up to the crowd there. But he's saying we have our Tottenham back, but he's got to back that manager on the pitch, and I think actions hopefully will speak louder than words.
It's very much easier for him to back a manager like Ange than to back a manager like Conte and Mourinho. He knows, like, the model that we had with Pochettino, okay, fine, like we went a whole year without making transfers, but that kind of model of buying young players and making them into stars, that's very much the vision that Ange wants to go in, and the way Ange has worked in the past. So I think it very much aligns with the way Daniel Levy wants to run this club and the way this club has been run mostly in the past. So when you're talking about the Spurs DNA and you're talking about a manager who can actually work under what Daniel Levy's trying to do, Ange is the perfect manager for it.
And what else did he say? He said he was talking about the managers being the right fit for the club. And he said, when he was talking about Ange, he was saying, this is the football we want to see. And then he also said, which is quite interesting, he said, and if it takes us a bit longer to win now, even though with the football that we're playing, I think maybe that's the direction we have to go in. And is that correct? After fans have been impatient for a while, but he's now, Levy's kind of saying, we're going in the right direction on the football pitch, or footballing wise, but it might take us longer to win if we go with this approach. But I think that's a better approach for Spurs. Do you think that's correct?
Yeah, I do think it's correct, to be fair, because I think you got to take everything what's in front of you, right? And the last 4 years has been a complete waste of time. We've dropped so far down. Then it's going to have to be a process. No manager can come into Tottenham, as we've seen, and be a quick fix to go and start winning straight away. So we're bringing in all this young talent. Perisic has done such a great job in recruitment. We've got this manager now who's imprinting a brand new philosophy on this set of players. So I think that's really the only option is to be patient.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, and let's move on to the last story of the update. It's not really a story, but I just want to wax lyrical about these Tottenham under-21s. They are on absolute fire at the moment. They've won 100% of their games so far this season in 3 competitions. They sit top of the league, 4 games played, 100%, 14 plus goal difference as well. On the opening day, they beat Man City by 5-0, 2 goals by Iago Santiago, Sunsot Bell, Ajayi and Ketan scored. Then we beat Newcastle 4-1 with Santiago scoring 2 goals, Sunsot Bell and Niall John getting on the score sheet. Then we beat Derby by 2-0 with Will Lancashire scoring 2 goals. And then we beat Blackburn 4-0 with Sunsot Bell getting a double, Lancashire getting 1 and Jamie Donnelly getting 1. And then we played in the Premier League Cup and beat Sunderland 3-2 with goals from Jamie Donnelly, Santiago and Harvey White just before he left. And then last night was the opener of the Football League Trophy where we beat Colchester by 5-0 with Jamie Donnelly getting 2, Sunsot Bell getting 2 and Will Lancashire getting a goal, with Ashley Phillips making his first start and Alejo Veliz coming off the bench for his first appearance for the under-21s as well. I mean, they are on absolute fire, this lot. And you're looking at Sunsot Bell. They brought him in from Chelsea last year, 19 years of age.
Picked up a big injury, didn't he, last season?
Yeah, I think, was it for Chelsea or for Spurs?
I think for just after he signed, I believe, wasn't it?
Either way, like, he has started the season on absolute fire. Jamie Donnelly, I've been watching a few highlights from him, and he's got the passing that he's got on him. I swear it's comparable. He's been taking lessons of Harry Kane, 100%. And you got Will Lancashire as well, who's absolutely smashing them in. Iago Santiago, who not many people are even talking about, is scoring a lot of goals. So we've got a lot of players coming through this under 21 ranks at the moment. And they're all at a really good age, between like 18 and 19. So hopefully that these guys can start being drip fed into the first team as well.
Yeah, and I was listening to what Ali Gold was saying about a lot of the youth players. And apparently last season there was a lot of injuries, as I mentioned, like Sunil Bell was injured. I think Donnelly had a few injuries as well. And apparently the under 21s were really struggling last season, and they were actually nearly got, like, they were close to getting relegated. Yeah. And they stuck with the manager. They didn't end up changing him. And then they've got and then at the end, near the end of the season, they like got a lot of their injuries back, and they went on some good run of form. And obviously they didn't get relegated. And now, after a full pre-season, all the players fit and firing, now they're 100% record. They're scoring every game, and it's so exciting to see the names you're saying. That Sunil Bell was just smashed them in for fun. So is Donnelly, and let's just hope they get a big some big loan deals, and they can get some real experience, and that's what we want. We want a conveyor belt of talent coming through, and when you've got the best facilities, there's no excuse not to be bringing in players consistently through the academy, and that should be the game plan. Even if it doesn't mean going on to make first team players, you look at what Chelsea have been doing down the years, sending players out on loan, successful loans, but even with a view of potentially either going to the first team or selling them for 10 million, 15 million, and that's a consistent source of revenue as well. So I think we should definitely be making better use of the academy. I think for a long time we haven't been, but in terms of what I've actually seen, I've seen a few clips of Donnelly, but in terms of last night, I saw a bit of the individual highlights of Veliz when he came on, and he looked bright. He missed a couple one-on-ones, which he'll be disappointed with, but physically I saw the game was being played very direct towards him, and it was almost too easy for him. He's 19 years of age, and he was out muscling these defenders like they weren't even there.
And he was getting in football though, and it probably showed.
Sorry?
He has played men's football.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Probably it showed.
Exactly. So I thought he was, even though he didn't score, and you could argue, yeah, he probably should have finished those chances, it was almost like too easy for him to make himself chances, which was encouraging.
I felt, I didn't see the highlights, but I heard from a few reports that it was very similar for Ashley Phillips at the back. Like he was just an absolute man mountain and looked physically much bigger than everyone on that pitch. So look, to have players in that under 21 that are kind of at that level that look like so much better than anyone on the pitch at under 21 level at such a young age as well. Ashley Phillips is 18 years of age and he's looking bigger than everyone in the under 21. So, and Veliz as well, 19 years of age. So hopefully that they can get some chances. Do you feel like, obviously we need him for cover in the first team, but if we do bring in a centre-back, would you like to see, in January, would you like to see Ashley Phillips loaned out to get consistent minutes?
Yeah, I would. If we do bring one in, obviously if we don't, we're going to need him. But if we could bring in a centre-back, I would, because I think the sooner he is getting consistent minutes and helping his development, I think we've just seen like how it's helped people like Udogie to get consistent minutes at a top level, how it's really helped him bed into first team football. So I think definitely that experience is invaluable.
Would you say the same for Alejo, Veliz?
Yeah, I would. Because I think at the moment we have Richarlison, we have Son playing the number 9. Unless we're seriously thinking about him as an option that could potentially start games, like as a real serious competition for Richarlison, which I don't think we do right now, he probably would have been better off out on loan at this current point. But maybe as well, it's just better for him to be around the ground, just to settle in at Tottenham, just so when he goes back on loan, he can come back and the settling period will be a bit less. Yeah. So it's probably good these 6 months for him at least, or year.
All right, so there you have it. Tottenham under 21s are on fire, just like the first team. But let me know in the comment section below your thoughts regarding all of those news stories today. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.